First I misread you, delayed by your eye.
Welcome to the Folk Hogan Podcast, where we deep dive into the world of Folk Hogan, bringing you band stories, behind-the-scenes action, and everything in between, whether it's new music, tales from the road, or exclusive interviews with the band. We got you covered. Thanks for tuning in.
How are you, Chips?
Well, exclusive band interviews extends to exclusive fan interview.
Peter Jones.
Peter Jones is here. I'm good. How are you?
Hey. You are good? You look like you're good over
good.
there.
We had to part 2
Yeah. I'm excited.
because we just had too much. We had to pee.
Yeah.
And
Have I been reduced to fan?
It's been a whole.
No.
It felt weird saying that. Felt weird saying that.
Because the funny thing is, I don't even like your band. I just
Yeah.
hang
Who
out because
does?
I know you.
Yeah.
Who does?
I'm joking.
People
It's a-
only hate listen to this podcast.
I rage show up to like 150 of your shows.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
We've been talking to Pete
Hey.
Jay. I almost
PJ.
said your last name. I
You
didn't-
did
I didn't know
already.
if that
It's
was-
I
fine.
did.
Okay.
That's all right. That's all right. I live in, never mind. I was going to give my address,
Yeah.
phone number.
Yeah.
All people who are interested, come over to my house.
You
We'll have a
ever,
party.
you ever
Yeah.
looked at a newspaper from like 100 years ago
Yeah.
and how weird it is when they tell stories of like
Moses McKinley from
Mr.
1726
Yeah.
West Temple.
they give people's addresses, and then especially when it's women, they give a like very specific detailing of what
she's
she
home
looked like.
recuperating and could certainly use some
It's
social
just-
interaction.
It's bizarre. It's
Yeah.
so bizarre the way
There's
things
a
have changed.
podcast I listen to. Can I promote another
Yeah,
podcast?
absolutely.
Yeah,
I listen to
absolutely.
one called the Pastimes,
Yes,
which is
yeah.
the guys from
Oh,
the
yeah.
Dollop.
I love the
They do
Dollop.
I think we all listen to that.
They do the Pastimes, which is reading old newspapers, and it's always weird shit like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I love the Dollop. I haven't listened to Pastimes, but I'll take your recommendation.
That's
I'll
their
listen to it.
their side podcast.
I thought that's what you were talking about.
No.
If you want to listen to a really good one, listen to the one with Randy Blythe from Lamb of God,
Ah.
because he's a guy.
Yeah.
And
I'm into that.
he's a huge fan of those
Yeah.
guys. So he's the one that's starstruck,
Yeah.
which is freaking weird.
It's like when Nick joined Folk Hogan, and I was like, "Oh my god,
Nick's a
oh my
celebrity."
God. It still hits me once in a while. I was telling someone recently about I had Casey and Casey's wife over at my house, and me and Ashley were just chatting with them, and then like somehow the conversation turned to Die Panda Die, and I'm pretty sure I just ruined the rest of the night by just like putting Die Panda Die on and being like, no, listen, it's so good, I love it. I love Die Panda.
Like
have
music you really love for somebody else is
Yeah.
really not the same.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I have a whole shelf of local band music in my living room, which includes your stuff.
Yeah.
And
Honored.
there's some amazing bands going back to the early 80s.
Yeah.
Because I've been around a while. I got
Pick some out. Tell us about some. From all different eras.
Ooh. Put me on the spot there.
I've
Well, there's this band called Folk Hogan. They're all right. I listen to them sometimes.
never seen them.
We already talked about Kiss Me, Kill Me. They're actually one of my favorites of all time.
So good.
They were so
band ruled.
good. I don't know that they ever released a physical release, but I burned a CD
Yeah.
out of some files that I got from them somewhere. They were great. I really liked Sub Rosa,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is kind of a doom rock band, for those who don't know, involving some really heavy hitter, long-term legacy players.
Yeah. Andy
From-
Patterson. I
And,
mean,
Andy.
staple of. I feel like it's reductive to say the Utah music scene.
You want to talk about I'm Not Worthy.
Yeah.
You're in a room with Andy Patterson, and he runs over across the room and gives you a bro hug.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
He's a guy that I have known
What a
for
treat.
over a decade, and yet every time I see him, I'm still like nervous to say hello. And he's been nothing but kind to everyone I've ever met, and yet I'm still just like, I can't believe you're just hanging out, you're just drinking a beer next to me.
Yeah, I was with a good friend of mine that works at this restaurant that I eat at, and Andy actually officiated her wedding.
Oh, wonderful.
And we went up to Andy and we're like, "Hey, Andy," and he's like, "I know you from somewhere. Like, give me a hug." I'm like, "You don't remember where you know me from, and you're still gonna give me that? All right, cool." Gentry from Iceburn.
Gentry, yeah.
Iceburn was a notable semi-national. They were a national band.
Yeah.
They were international, actually.
Yeah.
Big deal back in the day. I'm old enough to think that they were young.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a lot of bands on my shelf.
Yeah.
There's this really great country folky songwriter guy named Jesse Thurgood that I like. He's out of Payson. And just kind of he did one record. Now he plays every Friday night at Maggleby's.
Wow.
And he's still around, still doing his thing, writes a good song.
Yeah.
Just hangs out.
Something to be said about just writing a good song. Like, there's a difference, and I've written a lot of songs, but like writing a good song, there's something special about it. Like, even when it's a style I don't particularly care for, like you can just everyone recognizes it. Like, even when it's a style that they don't particularly care for, you can go, "Oh, I can see it. I can see why
just
everyone
went and
loves
saw
this."
the Bob Dylan movie.
Oh, how was it?
I liked it because it's basically Bob from arriving in New York to releasing or standing on stage and plugging in his guitar.
Oh, okay.
So that time period where he's a folkie,
right?
He suddenly becomes the angry, withdrawn, isolated guy, and then plugs in his guitar, and he's doing rock and roll now, but rock and roll with a meaning.
Yeah.
Because rock and roll before that was Tutti Frutti,
right,
and Elvis, you know, blue suede shoes, all that foo-foo stuff, which is great.
Yes.
But it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Rock and roll Bob Dylan style is Positively 4th Street or Like a Rolling Stone. Yeah. That's a little different.
Yeah.
So, writing a good song.
I've been wanting to see that movie, so.
It's starting to leave theaters. Go catch it on a Tuesday where it's bargain time.
I've been waiting to see it until I can watch it with my mom. So
it'll be streaming soon enough. It's really good. If you're a music fan, you'll really dig it because there's a lot of it that is authentic enough to the process that you'll be like, "Oh, I get it. I get it."
I'm into that.
And I'm just a hack musician, but I'm part of the music scene, so I understand that stuff, and it's been really cool to watch that kind of thing happen and in our society, and to point it out to my friends and kind of like mansplain my way through, like, watch this. You're gonna see something happen here that'll be explained in a way you've never seen it before. Yeah,
there's something particularly enjoyable about loving any piece of art, but being a musician, for me specifically songs, that you can just dissect and then try to explain your dissection to someone. Like, the band has had to hear 1,000,000 times, and my girlfriend has had to hear plenty of times,
2,000,000 times,
me completely dissect the song One Headlight by the Wallflowers, because I believe that it is a perfect song. And it's an unexpectedly perfect song, and there's elements to that song that don't make any sense. Like, if you think of that song in your head, right? But what's insane about it is if someone brought you that song and you were the bass player and they were like, "Write a bass line to this," the last thing you would do is go, "I'm going to play triplets the whole time."
Right.
That makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
And yet, it's what drives that entire song, and it's just so interesting to me, those small decisions that can be made in the creation of any piece of artwork that can end up being the backbone of the whole thing.
So now you've given me homework. I'm going out of here with more questions than answers. A similar thing, and this goes back to my youth and my relationship with my dad, was my dad sat me down one time. He's like, "What's that song?" Goes, "Na na 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 na." I'm like, "Oh, Blondie, Heart of Glass." So we went and got a record, or CD or whatever, and we listened to it over and over and over because my dad was a musician, and so he wanted to know what makes this song so catchy. Why do I like a disco song? Well, it's not really a disco. It's kind of a pop song,
it's a moddy pop song.
But it's got a sing-along. It's got a time signature change. It's got a whole chord modulation. Sorry about anyone in the listening audience that doesn't know what any of that stuff is, but it's real, and the good stuff has that stuff in it. One Headlight has that stuff in it. It's the same. Basically, that's actually the same song as that Blondie song.
I love the dissection of art because art's so subjective anyways, that like hearing anyone take a song apart and talk about what's good about it and what's bad about it, I particularly enjoy. And there's now in like the YouTube age, there's like a million channels that really dissect through these things.
They actually, that's their content stream.
If you want a good chuckle, I'm sure you're aware of Rick Beato's series, What Makes This Song Great or whatever. There's a guy that made a series called What Makes This Song Stink. Pat Finnerty. Boy, if you enjoy dissecting songs and understanding songs, it is hilarious. There are so many in-jokes that like really only hit you if you're a musician, I think, that make that show just an absolute hoot.
I mean, I showed up here with Spinal Tap jokes, so
here's a thing you may not know. So Folk Hogan played 2 shows as a 3-piece before Nick joined the band. Before we had a drummer, it was just mandolin, accordion, and acoustic guitar.
I think I have a picture of that.
And we played our very first show at City Limits on Halloween dressed as Spinal Tap.
Nice.
I've got a really awful photo of us somewhere.
That's crazy.
It's, it's the life of this band, man. It's weird to remember things over the years.
Where was the other show?
The second show was December 30th at Liquid Joe's of 2010.
It's on your calendar. It's on your website.
And
I saw that.
There was a horrible blizzard that day.
2010 or 11?
2010.
2010, yeah.
And
because on 2011, on 30th, you were in Spanish Fork.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah.
It wasn't New Year's Eve, but it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah. And it was quite the show. It was just a bunch of local bands, like a collection of local bands, as they frequently used to do there. And our original guitar player, who only played 2 shows with us, got really drunk, as he did all the time, and had some real bad behavior that night. And one of those things was, in the middle of a song, he just stopped and grabbed a microphone and was like, I don't want to play this song anymore. And then like folded his arms and pouted until we stopped the song. Like, okay, well, this is awkward. And then when the set was over, he was playing my guitar, and he just like took the guitar off and like dropped it on the floor and walked away. But the worst thing he did that night was he made out with some chick at the bar, which was a particular problem.
We will call them a lady.
Which was a particular problem because his sister-in-law, who was my wife, happened to also be at the bar that night to see him making out with this random woman. And she turned to me and was like,
That's
did
not
you just
cool."
see that? And I was like, yeah. I was sort of under the impression at the time that like they lived together, but they had split up. And so like they were together, but not together. They were just raising the kid together. That's sort of how he had explained it to me. And so she went out, my ex-wife went outside, called her sister and was like, hey, you guys together? What's the deal? And she was like, yeah, we're together. We've never not been together. She's like, okay, well, just so you know, saw him making out with a woman at the bar. I was like, okay.
Oh boy.
So at the end of the night, we're like loading stuff out, and I'm talking to Jeremy, who became our drummer after this show. And Canyon comes running up to me with this terrified look on his face, which I've only ever seen one other time when he was way too high on too much acid. And he comes over with this just petrified look, and he's like, "You need to get over here right now." And I could hear my wife screaming. So I was like, "What is going on?" And so I run over, and I come around the corner of the building, and she has our guitar player up against a wall, and she is raining punches down upon him. And I mean, like, not just throwing fists. It's like headshot, body shot, headshot. Like every time,
and verbalizing.
Yes, and every time he goes to block, she moves to a different spot, and she beat the shit out of him in front of the bar. And I grabbed her and like pulled her away, and she was, of course, super upset. And I was like, I know I'm not supposed to probably say something like this at a time like this, but that was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, that was amazing.
That's funny.
And then his next band practice, he got so drunk at practice that he couldn't sing or play his part in Popeye, which is like the simplest song we play. And then he almost fell on the drum kit, so I sent him home, and then we had the conversation of like,
you can't be in the band because you can't
Yeah.
sing Popeye.
yeah, this is too far.
It was, and then I got the call.
Yeah.
Well, so how did so here's the component I'm missing. I heard a little bit about the falling into the drum set, being too drunk, which
Yeah.
was a really funny story because I'm like pulling a bottle of wine out of my bag for us to drink as you're like, we had to kick our other guitarist out because he was like drinking too much, and I'm like, I brought a whole bag of wine. Wait, what?
Yeah.
But how did what was the timeline? Okay, so there was those two shows.
Yeah.
Jeremy joined. There was some rehearsals there, or at least one where he got drunk, fell
Yeah.
into things. When did Tanner come into the band, and when did Jeremy come into the band?
So we played that show December 30th of 2010, and after the show, when I was in the parking lot talking to Jeremy, he was like, yeah, like, I think you guys need a drummer after seeing you play. Like, I do think what's going on is interesting, but like, we were literally having the conversation of him being like, dude, look, I've been in bands with people that are super bad alcoholics and drug addicts, and I don't want to do that again. And
Yeah.
like, what I saw tonight, his behavior on stage made me think that maybe he's one of those guys. And I was like, you know, I'll have a conversation with him. And like, that was foolhardy. I was young. I'd known this guy for years, and he had always been a complete wreck. Incredible musician, but drank too much, did too many drugs. So we had our first practice with Jeremy like a week or two later, and we had a couple of practices with him.
Yeah.
And when we got that point of just like, all right, this guy can't be sober, we
Yeah.
would get together to write songs, and he would be so drunk he couldn't sit in a chair. Like, it was bad. And so if you want to know when Tanner joined Folk Hogan about an hour before you showed up.
Okay.
I had
right.
called him.
That's funny.
Timeline
because
clarifies.
Tanner and I had been in Devil's Country. Tanner
Yeah.
played guitar and sang in Devil's Country, and I knew he was playing banjo, and so I hit him up and I was like, "Hey, why don't you come play banjo?" And he showed up and was like, "Where's Dave?" We were like, we had to kick Dave out of the band because you know Dave. And he was like, "Yeah, that makes sense. So like, who's playing guitar for you now?" And we were like, "We don't have a guitar player." He was like, "Well, I know a dude I can call right now, and he'll be here in 20 minutes, and he'll be your guitar player."
And
we were
I've
like,
heard the story from this point on.
Yeah. And we were like, "Okay."
Okay.
So
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I had
He'll be here in 20
I had
minutes.
known about you
Yeah.
and Canyon and your songwriting from Tanner driving around in his little blue Toyota truck, and he had
yeah.
like CDs of like all the demos that you guys had cut
yeah.
in the shed.
Oh yeah.
And Tanner had always been around.
Well, he would have had the Casa mix. You
Yeah,
certainly heard
that.
the Casa mix.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was a house a party house I lived in right after I got out of high school.
Yeah. And I had seen Tanner perform like a comedy set before on acoustic guitar.
Oh yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
I mean, hilarious, and we'll let the content of that live in its time because I don't think there's anything about that would fly now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, it was really pushing the limits of comedy at that time, and that was a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we all laugh at the Eddie Murphy comedy videos.
yeah.
It's still funny.
I mean, it's still funny. It would probably still get some laughs, but like, you know, it just
not
wouldn't,
today.
It just wouldn't be. It would be a product of its time, I guess. You know, he had one song that was just literally a Hustler article.
I forgot about that.
The lyrics were just like word for word, like a Hustler article.
Why am I so tingly now?
So yeah, it was just.
I forgot
He had
about
some
that.
funny shit. He also had like a song that would totally fly today. That was like he would sing in this little tiny itty bitty girl voice, and the song was like called like I Can Make This the Sound of a Demon or the Devil or something like that, and then like out of nowhere he would blast out this like demonic sound. And it was jarring, and especially over like a sound system.
Yeah.
That's like ahead of his time.
Yeah, I mean he's funny as shit, and so I knew Tanner as kind of like being this really hilarious dude, decent musician.
When Die Panda Die was a band.
When Die Panda Die was doing stuff, he would come show up and dress up like the panda and get thrown through ceilings and things like that. And
I saw you guys play, actually. I saw Die Panda Die play. I was already kind of old and had to be that old man in the back at that point. But I do remember seeing you Starry Night?
Yeah.
Provo?
It's probably
Or
either Starry
someplace
Night
like
or
that.
Steamers.
Steamers.
Because that's where most of the shows were.
Yeah. I definitely saw your band play, though.
Yeah.
I didn't know who you were, and I was too old to relate to any of y'all young punks.
Yeah. And then Tanner and I formed a band with the bass player from Die Panda Die, and we kept different iterations of the band, and some of them did stuff and some of them didn't. We had a really good hair metal band. The drummer went to prison, and I don't know if he's in or out or what. He was a weird dude, and but I had basically stepped away from all the music stuff, and I was just finishing like the last 2 or 3 weeks of school, of college, and I had no intent, and I had barely touched a guitar at all in like 2 or 3 years. I had to basically learn how to replay to be in the band.
Yeah.
I mean, not completely, but like there was a muscle memory that wasn't there from setting it down for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
No, not 4 or 5, like 3 or 4. Yeah.
Still, that's
But-
a long gap.
Yeah, there's a long gap, and so it was just a weird timing thing.
Yeah.
So that's all fascinating, and Tanner was our banjo player until Box took over, and
Which is weird to think of because it seems like Tanner was our banjo player until Box took over. Tanner played 4 shows with us.
yeah,
That's
I
it.
guess not that many.
Yeah.
I saw at least one of those shows. Probably 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Because we did.
It was more spaced out, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you won a battle of the bands in the middle of that spaced out time, so kind of got
Nice.
to some momentum.
Yeah.
Prize money? Was there money? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I think so. I think
think
there was
there
like
was.
$200.
a couple
or
$100,
something.
yeah.
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 We
Good
never had
times.
you in the battle of the bands again because we didn't want you to kick everyone's ass.
I feel like you can kind of only win one battle of the bands.
We played the
And
same
then it's-
battle of the bands 3 years in a row and won every time.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Nice.
You know, when I was growing up, we had a battle of the bands in our hometown, and they had 2 categories. They had like the amateur category and the professional category, and of course everyone applied to the professional category. and the band I was in was the only band that applied to the amateur category. So we won by default, which is great because if there had been one other band, we would have lost because we were pretty terrible.
Pretty bad.
But one of the things I loved about that specific Battle of the Bands is that like they actually had some very accomplished musicians that have toured the world as the judges. And of all the bands that got up and played, of all different genres, there was like one band that was like a bunch of cutesy girls from BYU that had written these like very cutesy songs, all playing their Dan Electro guitars and like very, very pop rock. And as soon as they went on, every other band was like, they're going to pick these girls. And then this band got up that was like popular in Heber called Demerol Drip, and they were just this super heavy band.
I think they should win for their band name.
Yeah, that's a good enough. I'm voting for them.
They
I don't need to
played their
hear
show,
any
and
other
they were
notes.
really, really good. But it was obvious, like, you guys are a metal band,
And the girls are still going to win.
and you're at a show
It's a pop
where
show.
all the other bands are not this.
Right.
Demerol Drip won. And it was like the first, and even as someone that was the first Battle of the Bands I ever played in my life, I was surprised. I was like, they actually made the right decision. I expected them to make a choice of like, this band got the most cheers, so they're going to win. But no, they were like, this band had better musicianship, so they win.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, and I remember going that like spiked a memory of like as a 15 or 16-year-old going to a like show, like a concert in like a BYU common like area, and there probably being 500 or 600 people there. But it was like a band that played some like covers. It was like an emo band. It was just like not a show that you'd expect to happen on BYU campus.
I used to do shows at BYU campus all the time. I'd do sound for them.
Yeah.
And you'd have guys show up. And it was like what you said. It was just this weird variety. But in those groups were members of Imagine Dragons and Neon Trees.
Yeah.
And some of these other bands that have had regional and or national careers based on the fact that they were in a band in college.
Yeah.
So Provo's kind of a special and unique sort of little place
It's
that
interesting.
hibernates these weird bands. And
Corey Fox.
yeah, I mean, you're from basically from there. You're basically from a suburb of there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you know,
I remember lots of
Velour's
instances.
a thing.
Corey Fox,
Yeah.
man. That guy knows
Corey.
how to like
I've been
coach
doing
bands
shows with
and-
Corey's for like 4 or 5 different versions of what it is now. The Velour
Yeah.
is just his version of the same thing. We've done so many shows in so many other places. I've known that guy since forever.
It's crazy. I was talking to someone about Corey the other day, and they were like, he seems like such a tastemaker. And I was like, I mean, he is. Like,
He gets to be
There's-
that because it works.
I was like, the thing is, like, look at the bands that play there. Like, some people would look at it and go, oh, he only lets bands of, like, a certain type play. And, like, to a certain extent, that's true.
How
like,
many times has his venue been mentioned or written up in Rolling Stone
Yeah.
or
That's the
Spin
thing.
magazine?
That's the thing is that, like,
He doesn't have to apologize for that.
He's cultivated a whole thing.
That's the whole thing is he's really
Yeah.
taken, he really looks for those diamonds and he finds them. And like, I was explaining this to them and they were like, have you ever played there? And I was like, no, which is super
Because
weird.
you don't have a lady on a glockenspiel in your band or a cello.
Which is super weird. Corey used to date my sister. I've known Corey for a long time, and every time we see each other, he's like, I gotta get you guys in. And we're like, we're busy. Sorry. Like, Nick and I walked in there one night while a band was playing, and just like,
for the Jason Anderson show?
for the Jason Anderson show. And we just bullshit with him for like 45 minutes.
when Corey
and
runs
then-
across the room to give me a hug, and everyone's like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Like, I've known Corey since 20 years before you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was doing shows at the Rhapsody with them.
Yeah, I've known him since before the Rhapsody.
Yeah.
I used to do sound for him in the Rhapsody all the time.
Yeah.
So
he's done some amazing
Wow.
stuff. I like that guy.
In fact, can I name drop one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
do.
Here's a Rhapsody story.
Yeah.
There was this punk ass kid that used to come to the Rhapsody and be like, "I'm going to be in a band when I grow up. I'm 15 and I'm cool." And we're like, "Whatever, help us unload this van." So he'd help us unload. Kid's name was Brandon Flowers from the Killers.
Yeah. Yep.
He's like, "I'm going to be in a band when I grow up." Yeah, you are.
Yep.
And we used to like make him go, "Hey, I'm hungry. Can you get me a drink from the restaurant?"
Yep.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "Yeah, whatever you want, man."
Yeah.
Brandon, cool.
Everybody has to live a life.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
It's, you never know. Like I didn't know for a long time that like this weird kid that used to come and hang out once in a while.
I know. Who
I
you're
met
gonna say.
him and I met his dad and was just like, I don't really know you guys and you're kind of weird. And then his dad was one of the judges at that Battle of the Bands that I played, and as for winning the amateur part of the Battle of the Bands, we got free recording time. And it wasn't until like I walked into the recording studio in his house and looked on the walls and it was like nothing but gold records for Cher and Michael Jackson and Toto and Air Supply. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. What is going on here? And like, what? Hey, Mark, what do you do? And he was like, oh, yeah, I play drums in a bunch of bands. And like, my dad is John Williams. It's like, what?
Mark Williams.
Why do you live
Yep.
here?
He played with Air Supply for a long time and a whole bunch of other bands, but
When they did their cover of, was it ABBA that did SOS?
yeah.
So Air Supply did a cover of that, and when he tracked the drum tracks, he liked to record them in the town hall in Midway because it was this huge room, and he'd set up mics all over the room. And when he tracked his drum track for that song, I was standing next to him the whole time.
And it was like a hit single in Europe.
Yeah.
It wasn't
like-
a big deal here, but it was huge there.
And like you would never know. He was such a humble, nice, wonderful guy. I really enjoyed experiencing having that guy in my life. He was a sweetheart. But like everybody has to live a life. Everybody's just a normal person.
Yeah, even
For
the
the most part.
celebrities.
Yeah. For the most part. Yeah. Some people get a little too crazy, but same with
yeah.
the regular populace.
Same with the regulars.
So, yeah.
Wow. We're name dropping now.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I didn't
That's
just plugged somebody's phone.
We've had some crazy shows over the years.
You guys have played with a lot of really big
Played with
bands.
some crazy bands.
If you could like set up like the dream show for Folk Hogan, who would be on that bill with us?
For me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'd put my own spin on it, so
Yeah. That's why.
I think you would
Yeah.
open for Arcade Fire
Yeah, that's fun.
because I'm a new wave guy. So
Yeah.
I mean that's post new wave, but
Yeah.
you know there's still that.
Yeah.
I did like Neon Bible.
Yeah.
Huh?
Did you see them play? You see that tour?
Oh,
They played at Thanksgiving Point.
Oh no! See, I thought for some reason they played at one of the.
They played at Kilby one time on their very first tour,
Yeah.
but 9 band members on the Kilby stage.
I saw
That's a mistake.
I saw a band at Kilby that had 27 members once.
Whoa.
And it was incredible. Like they spilled out well into the area.
You've played Kilby.
many times.
Yeah, many times, yeah. For people that haven't played in bands or have just attended shows at Kilby, it's different when you're standing on that stage as opposed to when you're in the audience. It's kind of a wild place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wacky.
You know that you're in a special place.
Yeah. Yeah, Kilby rules.
Kilby rules.
I've seen some of the best shows in my life at Kilby. So
Let's name venues then if we're doing this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bert's.
Bert's.
Bert's PP Lounge.
Yeah. Bert's Tiki Lounge, now known as what? Sapa
Sapa. Yeah.
Sushi Bar.
Yeah, it got like swallowed up by the
Pillar's
restaurant
still
next door.
there, but they took the stickers off it and there's no stage.
Yeah.
The
So
pillar's still
strange.
there because it's holding up the roof.
So strange.
Bar Deluxe.
Bar Deluxe.
Bar
Which is
Deluxe was a
now
spot.
Beehive.
The
Yeah.
Beehive.
Yeah.
Um,
We played there before and since.
I've seen you play there.
Formerly Egos. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched Murder by Death play there once.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I didn't think the band was on
Yeah.
because there were so many people in the room that the PA system wouldn't carry in a normal way.
Hell yeah.
So it sounded like when you walk through the front, it sounded like just like a quiet radio playing. And then I started walking towards the stage, and I realized the band was on the stage, and it was actually really, really loud show. It just, the sound wasn't carrying with how many people were absolutely packed in there.
Yeah.
In the audio world, we call humans MABs, mobile audio baffles.
Yeah.
Like you've got the room, and then you've got the room full of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have told this story to many people. I saw there's one of my most favorite bands of all time, Bear vs. Shark, had a reunion tour in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I flew out to San Francisco to see them. And halfway through the first song, like when the vocals kicked in the first song, there was one person in front of me, and like both guitarists are using a JCM 800, and there's a Ampeg SVT Classic 810, like plenty of volume 10 feet away from my face.
For the non-musician folks, those are guitar amps.
Yeah, and it was
Big old amps.
I could hardly hear the band because every person in the venue was screaming at the top of their lungs. And it was kind of jarring to be like, whoa, this is intense.
Wild.
And then halfway through the first song, I saw one guitar player look over at the other, and he mouthed, "What the fuck is going on?" And I was like, okay, they realize this is crazy too. It's not just me.
My least favorite, this is a sound guy comment,
Yeah.
so we're going nerd time.
Yeah.
A JCM 120,
Okay.
those Roland amps that all the shoegaze bands use,
Mm-hmm.
they sound awesome, but only if they're as loud as they can be.
Yeah.
And so you'll get these shoegazy bands playing just so freaking loud. You're
Yeah.
what is going on here? I can't enjoy this. It's too loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're mellow music, but you're so loud, you're hurting me.
Yeah. It's guys that play like Fender Twins that want it to break up. It's like, well,
You can make it break up before it hits the amp.
Yeah.
You can cheat that.
Yeah.
yeah.
You can do it in the studio way, I guess.
yeah.
But we're not all Pete Townsend
Now,
blowing it up in the studio.
every time we've played with Reverend Horton Heat, I've always been like enamored by the fact that like he goes out there and he's got the channel select for his amp and he's got a tuner. It's just like,
Yep.
and he sounds so good
But it's
every time.
so loud.
Yep.
Um,
Very loud.
Along those lines, Dinosaur Jr. I think you guys would
Yeah.
work good
That'd be
before
fun.
Dinosaur Jr. or
That'd be a
after.
blast.
That'd be a
Yeah.
fun thing.
But if you play after them, no one can hear a damn thing.
Yeah.
Because it's
So
nothing
loud.
but 6 Marshalls at a time,
Been through
and
that.
it's just pain.
Yeah, I don't enjoy those really loud shows. But obviously, you know, if the band's good enough, that will be the exception, you know.
Yeah.
But I always get comments from when I'm mixing live shows from older musicians. They'll come up and they'll be like, I can't hear the drums, or I can't hear this, or whatever. They want me to mix the room louder than everybody else in the room does. And I'm like, you've lost your hearing at this point.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you can't hear the drums in this tiny little room we're in? Like,
In the garage.
you know,
Yeah, that's
at the
thing.
garage on back.
I've
you can't
learned is
hear.
every show is
the
louder
snare.
than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like if you can find just the minimum amount that you can reinforce a show, the better off you are.
I've always had this weird fantasy of doing a show for Folk Hogan where every section has a little tiny speaker, like a
Oh.
little tiny full range, like 8 or 12 or 8 or 10 inch speaker, and everybody has in their section they have a volume knob, and that's the PA system, is just this, all of these little tiny speakers everywhere where they can control how much of that they want above or below their conversation.
So instead of doing couch show 2, we would do drive-in show.
Well, like a
It's
drive-in
drive-in movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just get one of those FM transmitters. They're super illegal without a permit.
Yeah.
But
When I was 25 years ago, when I was an AV tech, we invented the silent rave,
yeah,
and we
Yeah.
did it for one customer.
yeah.
And now the silent rave is a thing.
It's like-
you'll
yeah,
go
you
to
go to
shows.
festivals.
Festivals have them all the time. We didn't patent it. Big
Yeah.
mistake. Also, someone else might have thought it up first. I don't know. But
knows?
we invented it without anyone's inspiration. We were like, what if we were to just broadcast, like have a DJ in the middle of the room and have just receivers and everyone just has headphones on?
Yeah.
And then the room's silent. And there's nothing cooler than being in a room that's dead silent and everyone's like dancing. You can hear them. You
Yeah.
can hear the feet shuffling and
Yeah.
you can hear the bar, the glasses tinkling
Yeah.
at the bar.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
And
It's
so,
pretty cool.
What was the jokey YouTube whatever medium the videos were on at the time, the trend where they would redo what the room was supposed to sound like?
Oh, they'd remove all the
They
audio
remove
from the
and it-
song
yeah.
and just put in like the
And
sound
so they
of
did
the
like
performers.
Grease Lightning, and it's just like,
Yeah,
and it's just, it's kind of like that.
yeah. It is.
Yeah, I remember when we played the
It's kinda like
Bearmouth
that.
Music Festival, they had like a big section that was a silent rave. And I remember walking through it and being like, all I could hear was the sounds of people's body parts slapping against
and you
themselves.
hear like farting and burping and stuff
yeah.
too.
And I was just like, this
Because everyone has headphones on.
Yeah.
This is too weird for
Also,
me right now.
if anyone goes to Kilby Block Party, the Silent Rave building, shortest bathroom lines in the festival.
All right,
Okay.
good to know. We're going.
Hell yeah,
We're
we
gonna
are.
be there.
I'm there.
Yeah.
That's
See-
what I do for my day job, by the way.
Yeah.
Back to that
Yeah.
is I'm doing the stages and a
Yeah.
lot of the work on that festival.
Yeah,
and
it's so
others
cool.
like it. But
you were at that U of
So
U
cool.
show we did not long ago.
heck yeah,
What a treat.
what a
Good
treat!
times.
I didn't do anything except
So
stand there
fun.
and heckle you.
Yeah.
It was so fun though.
Took some pictures.
Yeah. It was fun. It was cold, but it was fun.
Whatever.
Couple of whiskey and wines.
Wasn't as cold
It's
as it
fine.
is today. Today it's like,
It was
Nope
6 degrees
weather.
when I woke up this morning.
Ugh,
yeah.
no thanks.
I
Welcome
went
to
to go
winter.
take my little dog out to the park, and I was like, all right, it's time to go.
I thought we
Yeah.
lived in the desert where
I'm-
it's supposed
I'm
to be
over
hot
this.
all the time.
I'll take it. I'd
If it just
much
goes
rather
right
this.
through a hoodie, it's nope weather for me.
Yeah, I just don't want to wear a coat. That's the thing. I
Yeah.
don't want to actually put on clothes.
Yeah,
I went out and put the cat. I cleaned out my cat litter box today and went out barefoot to put it in the garbage can.
Yeah.
and about froze
Terrible
to the
mistake.
ground.
yeah.
Terrible mistake.
Well,
Do you?
this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Well,
I think we're done.
Let me ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
Make
I
sure
have a
that
couple-
you get
couple
anything
answers.
out that's important.
Because you've seen us so many times, is there a show that sticks out to you that you've attended, not one that you had to work,
Okay. Okay.
that you've attended that sticks out to you that you remember?
I think there was. Wow, there's so many.
Yeah.
Your CD release show for the show? No, for Behold,
Yeah.
at Urban
Yeah.
was pretty over the top.
Yeah. It's a good. Time.
Around the same time period, you played at what's that other place downtown? I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, that was one. That was one that stood out for sure. And I'm pretty sure you were as good as I've seen. I've watched the band change over the years a
Yeah.
lot, and you started out as a bunch of guys with a good idea, and perfectly capable at all your stuff. But what the band is right now is far more polished and tight. So even with the sloppy stuff, and there's always sloppy
Yeah,
stuff,
of
which
course.
those of us who have seen 100 shows, we can see
Yeah.
it. But the sloppy stuff doesn't matter when the good stuff is as good as it is.
Yeah.
So definitely Urban, but not the CD release show. Yeah. I don't know. I've seen you at ABG's like 20 times, and sometimes it's really good.
yeah.
Like really good.
Oh, ABGs. What a place. What a wacky.
It's hard
wacky
to say
place.
anything about that place without getting in trouble.
I know. I know. We're also like personally invested.
Love that place.
Oh, hey, I got something to show you. So I was sitting here looking at my phone the other day, and I'm like, "What's this in the back of my phone?"
Ah,
you know what this is already.
I do.
It's an ABG's drink ticket from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't use it, and
I didn't need it,
you know
so
why
I
I
gave it
didn't
to you.
use it? Because I put it in my phone so I wouldn't lose it, and then I lost it,
That's so fun.
and then there it was. So
Now you have it forever.
I have it forever.
You
It
can never use it again because it
can
has
go
a
on
date
the wall
on it.
with my autographed CD. Why do I have an autographed CD from a local band?
I
Who
wish
knows?
I've thought many times like, man, I should have just kept like a drink ticket from every night. And then I was like, well, then I couldn't have drank those drinks. But
I have drink tickets from like when I've played with celebrities, and they'll like hand me their extra ones or whatever.
yeah,
And then I put it on my wall in a picture frame. It's like that only means something to someone like me. If I die, my kids are going to throw that in the garbage so fast.
yeah.
I have 15 or so drink tickets from a place we played in Bamberg that had these they're like mini coasters. And on one side it says this gets one free drink, and then on the other side it says getchen drinken.
Oh yeah,
And
German.
and they gave like too many of them to each of us. And at the end of the night, everyone just had pockets full of these drink tickets. And they're, like I said, they're like coasters. They're thick and they're square. And
half the time, if the bartenders know who you are, they don't even need a ticket. They'll just give you a drink, whatever you want.
Yeah.
so I have like a stack of those at my house. And when we did Folk Hogan Jeopardy, I almost made those the prize tokens.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of something a little earlier. When you guys are on the stage and you're watching the bands or watching the fans,
Yeah.
you're the band, you're watching the fans. Do you see like the craziest things happen? Because I mean, I've been on a stage and I've seen some stuff, and you're just like, do you notice, or are you just kind of in your own head and
I've
your own
seen some
do your own thing?
wild stuff for sure. Over the years, there's a lot of things that specifically pop out in my mind that I've seen, crazy things that have happened.
Yeah. I immediately think of that girl that like passed out or whatever at Liquid Joe's.
Oh yeah. This poor girl. She didn't pass out. What happened was she had seen us before, and in the way back when days when we needed to fill time, there was a song we would occasionally pull out. We still will once in a while. It's a Rilo Kiley song.
Speaking of which, they're on tour again. I can't tell you where they're going to play.
Interesting.
That
Okay,
hasn't
good
been
to know.
announced yet.
I'm gonna have to go see that. Execution of All Things is a great album.
Great band.
So she had seen that at a show, and then we were playing a New Year's Eve show at Liquid Joe's, and she came to the show, and she like told me this whole story about how much that song meant to her. And so we agreed to change our set list and like take one of our own songs out and put that song in there because it was important to her. And we put it kind of in the middle of the set, and she was getting drunker as the night was going on, as tends to happen, and she went outside to smoke. And it's New Year's Eve. It's snowy. It's icy. And while she was outside, we started playing that song. So she put her cigarette out and came running into the bar in high heels with wet soles, and she hit that concrete, and her feet just went right out from under her, and she landed on her head, knocked her out. I didn't even see it, or else I would have stopped.
That's right.
I didn't even see it until I saw people like carrying her off to the side, and at that point, I didn't know what happened. I assumed someone had gotten drunk and fallen over. And it wasn't until like the end of our set that like Canyon had seen it and was all wide-eyed and like booked it over there to check on this girl.
Was Canyon always the one that would like be freaked out by the weird shit?
No, not at all. I mean, we've all seen some pretty insane things over the years. Most of the insane things I feel like we saw came from Skylar Helene. Skylar
He shares most of them.
he showed up to a show once in a suit and got into the like fray of everyone into the little pit, and then stuck his arm out and had someone tear the sleeve off of his blazer, and then stuck his other arm out and had someone tear the sleeve off that blazer. He would go to the bar at Woodshed and he'd buy 2 tall boys, and then he'd come over and he'd get in the mosh pit while he was drinking 1 beer, and then he would just go, I don't want to carry 2 beers, and he would turn on a dime and fire one as hard as he could right at our heads. And so we knew if Skylar was in the crowd, like head on a swivel, you got to keep your eyes
He's
on
coming.
him
He's
because
coming at
it
you.
could happen.
Yeah.
He was also very well known for grabbing a chair, pushing his way into the crowd, forcing some random person to sit down, and recruiting people to lift them up like it was a Jewish wedding and like
Wild.
parade them around. He tackled me on stage once.
Yeah, he's tackled quite a few of us.
It's just like there's a lot of crazy stories come from just that guy. That's for sure.
So when you're in a band with longevity, you outlive that. A lot of times
Yeah.
those people only have a couple years of that
Yeah.
in them.
Yeah.
Skylar, bless his heart, almost died in a biking accident, and he had a baby at the time, and he was like, "All right, I gotta calm down.
I just
got a
mellow it
kid I
out."
care about."
Yeah.
And once in a while, he'll come out and get crazy again, but he doesn't get nearly as crazy as he used to. But when Cameron joined the band, he had heard so many stories about Skylar that at every show for like the first several months,
Skylar
he
here,
would just be
Skylar
like,
here.
Is that Skylar? Like, no. Like, is that Skylar? I was like, you will know when Skylar walks through the door. So
Wild.
those things are up there. Yeah. What about you, Nick? Do you remember anything particularly crazy you witnessed from stage?
Other than derby girls with no shirts on.
I mean, that covers a lot of them. That covers a lot of them.
Yeah, seen that a few times. Oh man, there's too many stories. I can't even. My brain
So-
won't even filter them.
I might be crossing all the boundaries in the world right here. Is there a band code? Like there's a bro code. Like dudes don't tell on their dudes. Is there a band code? Like you're talking about the Liquid Joe's incident that ended up with your band member being beat up by somebody.
Yeah.
Is that
No, not really. Like the nice thing that we have always have had is that everyone in this band is pretty respectful.
I think you guys have
And-
ethics beyond
Yeah.
most bands.
And so like there's never been a time, like no one in this band that at least that I'm aware of has ever like cheated on their girlfriend or done anything unsavory like that, because the reality is the rest of us would have been like, hey, that was a really shitty thing to do. Why did you do that?
And I mean, those type of people kind of congregate together, and it doesn't really cross paths with us. But I think the only thing close to it is that we just have a sort of, you know, hey, if something weird happens, like there's still like we still have to maintain this level of professionalism. And
There's a graceful way out of
there's
it.
stuff that we talk about in the van after the show, but not on stage or not in the venue
So,
or whatever. So
after
there's
last-
certain things that we just like try not to make a big fuss about, because that's what on some level we're still trying to provide the best entertainment, and we don't want to ruin it for other people, but there are things that ruin nights for us, you know.
Right. So last St. Patrick's Day, Ogden.
Yeah.
I was there. I was invited by Sebastian, of all people, onto the stage to sing disgusting and absolutely revolting verse of Popeye.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was great. Do you talk about that in the van?
100%.
Good.
So
I did that for you.
we actually had for years, we actually had a channel in our group chat specifically that was just Popeye lyrics.
Yeah. Like, here's a
And-
verse someone can use.
And it was always the most disgusting things we could think of. And one of the biggest like weird regrets that I have is that I have thought of so many terrible, awful Popeye verses. But when we get on stage, I'm so focused on all the other stuff that all of a sudden it's my turn to sing and all of the words fall out of my head and I just have to go with the one that I've been using for 14 years.
That's funny.
So, no, we love that. And like, there's been many times where we've pulled someone on stage and been like, hey, you want to sing a verse of Popeye? Like, oh, I don't know what to sing. Like, I'll tell you what to sing. You should sing this. Like, oh, I can't believe you're going to say this in front of a room full of people. So yeah, it's like, you know, we've certainly done our fair share of unsavory things. You've seen me on stage with my pants off. Underwear still there, but pants off.
That happened like 2 weeks ago. Again.
Really?
I saw pictures on the internet. I wasn't even there.
I don't remember that.
At Aces.
Oh no, I was in booty shorts.
It's
Potato.
a fine line.
You want to hear a fun one? Is we made
I don't know how you're going to get out of this.
I was digging deep.
We
I was
made
like,
thongs a couple years ago,
Nice.
and we decided that it would be hilarious to promote the thongs to learn Cisco's thong song.
Yeah.
So we learned how to play the thong song, and then we were like preparing to play this at an Aces show. And as we're getting closer and closer to the show and we're working on this song more and more, it was like, it seems weird that just like at the end of the song, we're going to be like, yeah, we made thongs. You can go buy thongs. We went through all this trouble. And I was like, you know what?
We should wear them.
I'll wear a thong. And then,
because it'll sell some merch.
and then during the song, I'll like pull the straps of the thong up so that people can see that I'm wearing a thong. First of all, most uncomfortable night of my life.
I can only imagine.
It felt like there was just
Stage
like
sweat.
a bunch of rope tied around my balls. Just like I couldn't figure out where anything was supposed to go. There was no room.
This sounds like a verse of Popeye.
So we start playing the show. I'm intensely uncomfortable. And the show's going totally as normal, but I look over and there's this one guy that's sitting against the bar, just like kind of giving us a death glare, like clearly not enjoying himself, not a fan of the band, not having a good time, didn't care about it, like arms folded, just staring at us. And I looked at him numerous times and he never looked away. He was just pissed, it seemed. Well, we get to the thong song, and I like pull the side of the thong up to show that I'm wearing it, which total miscalculation, because all that did was pull everything in my crotch up higher.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna have to go to the hospital after this. But I look out at that guy, and he's like one arm up in the air, banging his head, singing along, and I was like, "Yeah, we got him.
That's
we
what it
got
took.
That one guy.
That's what it took, huh?
Sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah. I don't think we sold any thongs that night, but it was still worth it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Every good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that has two of those things.
I have one more story I want to tell.
Yeah.
I saw you guys play in Pioneer Park at the
Earth
Farmers
Jam
Market
or
or
something like
Farmers
that.
Market.
Yeah.
Oh, Pioneer Park.
And your dad was there.
Yeah.
My grandson Lincoln was there, and I put Lincoln on my shoulders. You jumped on your dad's shoulders, and you and Lincoln had like a jousting fight.
Oh, wow,
You
I
and a
forgot about that.
3-year-old.
Yeah.
He remembers that.
That's awesome.
He loves that story.
I loved being on my dad's shoulders when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Being that tall when you're that short,
Well, you
so
were
much fun.
way older than a kid when you did that.
By
that time.
it was
Yeah.
even better. I was even taller.
Pretty sweet though.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
So
my
props
dad
to
is
your dad.
still probably physically capable enough to have me on his shoulders.
Well, let's do it again.
Rematch.
Yeah. Rematch. We'll sell tickets. Maybe this is what we'll do, a little extra for the album release show.
Album release
A
show,
little-
April
A little
12th.
chicken fight.
Metro Music Hall, Salt Lake City, Utah. Tickets are available.
Yeah. Through me or Nick or Sebastian or
And
Casey.
Anybody but Cameron.
Anybody but Cameron, or you can hit up the guys in the Pickpockets. They'll be opening for us.
I've
They're
got some
awesome band.
that I can sell you.
Pete has two.
I have
Okay.
2.
If he sells them, he's got to
All
buy
right.
2 more.
Yeah.
All right.
That's how it works.
Come sit with me. I'll be in the VIP booth.
Yeah.
Being an old guy not standing in the
You'll
pit.
probably get to sit with if Rob and Heather are gonna be over there.
Hell yeah.
They're flying in for the show.
Nice.
Love them. Cannot wait to give them hugs. We should have them on the podcast as well. That'd be a blast.
When they're here?
Rob's been to 99, I think 99 Folk Hogan
Let's
shows.
make it 100 and
Yeah.
make an event out of it.
And then my parents I give them a booth usually. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you're not on their website, so you're managing the booths privately, right?
Yes.
I know who to talk to then.
Yeah, we're renting the venue for the evening.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
it's the way to go. Yeah.
Everyone be there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Pete, thanks so much
It's
for
a
joining
killer
us.
record, by the way.
Thank you. Excited. I'm excited for it.
Just
So.
teaser for everybody. It's freaking amazing.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad
right.
this is like unreal. We could do this. We could probably do 4 more hours of this.
Yeah, I
bet
except
we
I got to
could.
pee again.
I bet
Same.
we could.
Yeah. We'll have you back.
Okay.
All right.
that.
Well,
I'll
thanks
think
for
of some
being
new
here.
stories.
I would love
And,
that.
Thanks, Nick.
Go buy your tickets for the show
Yeah. Or
April
else
12th.
we'll come to your house.
on folkhogan.com.
FolkHogan.com.
We'll go door to door. Force everyone to buy tickets.